do some drone flying. I want to bring something up. I just heard about the death of one of my greatest idols, Anthonly Bourdain. If anyone knows him, he does a lot of food and travel. He originally was with, I believe, the Food Network with his show Cook's Tour. Later he would move to Discovery Travel to do No Reservations and Parts Unknown. Oh, sorry, not Parts Unknown, but what's the other show you used to do? Layover. He later goes to CNN for Parts Unknown. He's also an author too. He used to be the chef at Les Halles in New York City, Manhattan. Really love the guy. If you ever watch his show, you love the way he describes things.
This will be like soaked in sweat,
real,
covered with crawfish
down
jizz.
to earth, no BS, while being moderately respectful. He tries not to intentionally, what's the word I'm looking for? Insult people. There are things he doesn't like, but he will not go out of his way to berate someone. He says, I'm not crazy about it, but you know what? That's what you do. We'll leave it at that. Yeah. Passed away at age 61. Apparently suicide while filming in Paris, France, I believe. I guess he was there with filming with his best friend, because it was said that his one of his companions and best friend, Eric Repair from the Bernardin, also a restaurant in New York, 3 Michelin stars if I recall, discovered him in his hotel room. Now, how he passed away, how he killed himself, that's a detail that honestly I don't really need to know. But man, I was shocked to hear about this. He's one of those people you'd figure would live to like 100. But he had a lot of. I remember because I read his books. I read The Cook's Tour. I read No Reservations. Which other books? I have 2 other of his books as well, and they were all. I loved reading every bit of it. You can literally hear him. Come on, go, buddy. You can literally hear every single word written in the book in his voice. Of course, because he would write it, but that means he articulates himself. He speaks the way he writes, or he writes the way he speaks. A lot of people don't do that. He seemed like a really fun character too. But I know he had a lot of ghosts haunting him. He did a lot of drugs in his younger years as a cook and as a chef. He admits that if he stayed on that path, he probably would have died. He was able to get out. I'm not sure how many years he was sober though. But instead he smoked. That was actually a major part of his persona for the longest time when he was doing No Reservations. There's oh god, I think it was the Portland, Oregon episode where they went to that place Voodoo Donuts, and they asked, if you were to make a Anthony Bourdain themed donut, what would it be? And one of the last ideas was I think it was like a cooler with a cigarette on it. even gave that up. He managed to quit smoking for not long after his daughter was born. And if I also recall, that was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he and his wife had divorced. The woman he was with that buried his child. I've really been looking to buy his the latest book he had called Appetite. It's there's not a lot of miraculous recipes, but he goes into a lot of great descriptions on some of the inspirations, and because he really wrote that book to be with kid-friendly recipes, but at the same time pushing the boundaries of what you could serve them. And every time I found this book on the shelf at Chapters or Indigo, it was always damaged. It was the last one too, and it was always damaged. And that kills me. I guess I'll never be able to get a chance to have him sign it. I'll never get a chance to do another show here in Toronto. He did one layover episode here, and I didn't even know about it. And the only way I knew about it was because of this guy I met back when I used to play Airsoft. He, I don't know if he was one of his friends or was a fixer, because I think this guy was one of the partnered owners of a number of places in King West, which Anthony actually heavily featured on his show. And this guy that I met at an Airsoft game, played with him a few times, and I added him on Facebook, and he's the one that posted up the episode. And points out, hey, look, I'm in it. That's me. You should never really know what goes through people's minds. I mean, to the average Joe like you and me, we don't make a lot of money. We're not famous. The only place where I'd be famous is back at my old job. A lot of people knew me because I'd be one of the faces they'd see when I deliver the caterings, even though I don't work in front of the house. With the 12-year history there, right? But with people like that, you figure they have it made. He admits himself that he got extremely lucky when he wrote his book. He wasn't expecting it to be successful in any degree. At best, something that'll be a cult favorite. But it made him a superstar at the end of the day, and he reaped a lot of money with it. In turn, it turned into a TV show, which turned into a series. Had several had a couple of spin-offs as he moved on to other networks. My experience with suicide was my father, my biological father. He passed away when I wasn't even 4 years old yet. He committed suicide. He was manic depressant, from what I was told, and I never knew this until I was probably 14 years old. My mother, every time I ever brought it up, she would say that my dad was sick. She felt that I wouldn't be able to handle the truth. And she was right, I forgot which birthday it was of hers that she told me. It was her birthday. It was one of the milestone ones. And she pulled me aside and told, you've been asking And here's the truth: your dad killed himself. He committed suicide. I think she was partially drunk at the time too, because we had her birthday at a bar. I think it was at like the Fox and Fiddle or something, somewhere on Mississauga, back when she was dating this Filipino guy out there. And what I always found odd was that my last and only memory of my father was a little blurry. It's I was playing around. I think I was like running in the hallway or something, and I remember my father coming up to me, and I don't remember what exactly he did. It was vaguely like maybe he was hugging me, but maybe I didn't want him to do that. I think I was resisting a little bit. I'm not sure. And he put me down, and I would run off. And next thing I knew, I heard a loud scream. I didn't exactly run towards it, but when I got near it, the scene, I was swept away by who I don't recall. That was literally the last memory I had of him. Actually, it's pretty much my only memory of my father, because he took his life when I was so young, right? I can't imagine what his daughter would be going through right now. I believe she'd probably be like 7, 9 years old around now. See, she was, if I recall, she was conceived in the Beirut episode, which happened in 2006, 2007. No, she'd probably be 10 or 11 by now. I'll have to look it up. I know he talks about his daughter quite a bit. A lot of things that inspired him, like him quitting smoking, getting in better shape. His wife got him into that Brazilian martial arts, or was it jiu-jitsu? I don't recall. And I noticed that he, for a while, the pot belly he used to carry, the beer belly he used to have, was disappearing. Of course, it'll be his wife's doing. But then I noticed that at some points his shows weren't exactly the same anymore. Like, not necessarily the way that, like, the filming, anything that changed. I found that he changed. Something about him changed at some point. I think that probably had to do with his divorce, because I never knew about it until like maybe 2 years after it happened. But I noticed there was something different about his show. Like, he was still the same character, but he was more like he was acting it as opposed to... Thanks. It was more like he was acting, forcing himself to act like himself, as opposed to naturally being himself.
Following a depilatory bath in a tub of scalding water, everyone gets to scraping off hair like Jersey housewives before hitting the beach. It's a weekend at the Kardashians. Oh.
I kind of noticed this, I think it was within like the second season of Parts Unknown. Second or third season. He used to be a lot quicker with his remarks. I'm sure we're going to start seeing a lot of tributes to him, because he literally touched a lot of people in ways he never would have imagined around the world, especially those in the culinary industry. And I wished I read his book before I went to culinary school. Not that it would have stopped me or intrigued me more, but would have definitely verified what I always thought of the industry. I'll fully admit, when I got into George Brown, when I started culinary school, I went there because I was what I like to call a Food Network turncoat. When the Food Network came on, it glorified cooking. It made it look like it's easy money. It's not. They made chefs glorious and worthy of worship. But in reality, this is not what happens. It only happens to people that get on TV. The real nitty-gritty of it is very different, and he articulates that. He points that out. He really brings that to light in his book. But he does so in a very colorful, funny, scary, it's hard to describe his book because so many people will have so many different opinions on it. I heard there was a group of chefs that wanted to make sure his book never made it to the shelf, whereas other chefs say, you know what, if you want to get into the business, you better read this first. This is your Bible. This is a prelude to what you're going to get yourself into. Now, it's not going to be everyone's story. It's not necessarily the norm, but it's definitely one possibility that just so happens to be not necessarily standard, but very common. And I think it's very similar, not just the side of the industry of hospitality, but for most of hospitality. A friend of mine who used to work for as a bartender for the Liberty Group said, kitchen's not the only place where you have, you've got the degenerate, you've got the criminal that's trying to evade police. It's not just a drug head and the guy that can get you a gun under the table for cheap and it's clean. No. The servers and the bartenders, very much the same. And I can see that. I can see that equation of a restaurant or any sort of eatery attracting those sorts of individuals. I also find it so cool all the people he knows and are friends with. I never really thought that he would have been acquainted to someone like Nigella Lawson from the UK, also known as the Domestic Goddess. Another favorite of mine as well. She's for starters, she's gorgeous. Secondly, she's a self-taught chef. I don't think she has any official culinary training. Most of what she does is what she took from like their grandma's recipes, and she's made some of them her own, whatever she could. I mean, even if you ever watch her show, look at the way she chops things. Firstly she uses the rolling blade. I don't know any chef that uses one. She uses that to do a lot of chopping, and she doesn't chop very well. And even the occasions where she actually pulls out the chef's knife, you can see it. She doesn't actually know how to cut. But yet she's cooking, and she does it very well. And I find it absolutely hilarious. I find she's absolutely hilarious. And then there's the friends that, you know, he's the guitarist for Queens of the Stone Age. He recently did an Armenian show with Serge Tarkin. I'm not sure if I pronounced that last name right. He used to be the former lead singer for System of a Down. A really wild group too. I went to one of their concerts. I was here in Toronto a long time ago with someone I was interested in. She was really into that kind of music. And this was before they had the ban on smoking indoors. Or at least that's concerts that are undercover. And everyone was lighting up a doobie. Everyone was smoking something. Except for me. I don't do that. I was in the wrong crowd. But man, it triggered my allergies, and my eyes was just watering, and I wasn't sneezing. I had a little bit of a hard time breathing. I couldn't see properly either, and System had this really cool psychedelic light show going on that I think I could have only appreciated if I was high, like everyone else, instead of having my eyes watering. I still had a good time, I'll admit. Those are my grunge age. Listening to stuff that, quite honestly, my mother would not appreciate. And of course, there was that episode he did with Ted Nugent. Someone that he has very different views with, but at the same time, they're both very good friends. I believe he referred to him as Uncle Ted a number of times. Of course, he met with President Obama in Vietnam, I believe. I think that was more of a move on the network than his own. But not that I think he'd mind. You know, look at all the people he got to meet and make friends with. And then there's those people he never would have met that was still touched by him, like myself. I always make it a tradition of mine whenever we do Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. I would always put on one of his holiday episodes in the background. I'm not actually watching it. I've seen it like probably about 100 times as it is, so I'll probably know it off by heart by now, almost. Just to have it play in the background, just to set the mood for me to make dinner.